Hi everyone. In this video, I'll be replacing the paddles on my, so the paddles down there on my Power Clear 621 QZE snowblower. It's just not throwing much snow out of the chute. So in a previous video, I replaced the belt drive right here. That didn't help at all. I got this for free from my neighbor, so I doubt he's ever replaced the paddles, and it's a 2013, so it's like 10 years old. So yeah, I'm gonna replace the paddles because I think they're supposed to be changed every couple of years, give or take. So that's what this video's on. I also, in the kit that I bought, so I got some new paddles. I just got it from Amazon. It comes with some hardware as well. It also came with another belt. And then it came with the, I forget what you call it, the scraper plate, scraper bar goes on the bottom. I'll do that in a different video just so you don't have to fast forward or anything through this video. So the first thing I'm gonna do is set that down. You gotta kind of lean this thing back. So I just been using a paint can, it seems to work pretty good. And just lean this thing down. You could lean it all the way. Might get a little oil leak out, but I only need this much clearance. This is plenty. And then I got a little setup. I'm just gonna sit down. If you got a bench or something, that would be great, or even a lift if you're a real pro. And then I'm just gonna shock the tire so it's not moving around on me as I'm working on this. I think it's gonna take a little bit. First thing we're gonna work on is getting these side screws, and I'm just gonna do one paddle at a time and then put the other one in. And the first thing is these, I believe, are T27s. So I was looking in my kit of parts and I was able to find it. The kit that came with the extra screws, I was able to double check, but it's really tiny on the bit, but it's a T27, it fits perfectly. I've heard some people use a T25 and then you strip the screw, so just double check that the T25 will fit and it'll seem like it's snug. The T27 really seats in there good, so you want to use that. All right, let's get to it. So I'm gonna try to not spend too much time letting you watch me take the screws out, but I'll just give you some pointers along the way. So for this first paddle that we're gonna take off is this top one. One thing, I think the first thing to note is if you look at the side of it, the thicker piece is coming this way. So when you look at your new paddles, which, look at this, need some good light here. The thicker side, let's see if we can get the camera to focus in there. There we go. So one side should be just a little bit thicker. These are just cheapos off of Amazon, so that might be part of the problem here, but it looks like this bottom side is the thicker side. So that is going to, the orientation of it is it's gonna go on like this. So just one thing to remember there. And then we said that's a T27, and then there's not much clearance over here. So you've got to get something to hold on to these nuts on the back. So what I've got is just a clamp like this. Had to adjust it a little bit. I'm just going to clamp it on there, hold that, and then I'm just going to hand tool it just to get it started, and then I'll probably just use my my power drill to back these out. So I'm going to get going on that, and then we've got to do the same thing on this side. There's two here, right there and there, and then lastly these two. I'll see what hardware came with the kit. I don't know what we'll reuse and what not. These look pretty rusted, so we'll see how easily they come off. But that's what I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna put the new one on right away just so I can make sure I got it all on correctly, and then we'll repeat for the second one. Okay, so just so you can see how I'm doing this, you know, obviously I've got the T27 on there, move the light around, and then I've got my little clamp. And it's really tough to see, but it's on the screw. It's just holding the nut, sorry, the nut it's holding. And so I'm just backing this out while my other hand is holding this. It's coming out. It's in there pretty good though. So power tool might not be the worst idea. I might just switch out and back it out quickly with that, but that's the general process, and then you repeat here. I'm interested to see how hard it is to get those nuts on the back end when we put the new one on. I think that's gonna be a lot tougher, but that's the process. So I'm working on the last one, and that is right here where you can see I've got my ratchet just fell off. And when I was having a hard time with the clamp, I guess if you've got enough room, you can get your socket on there. It's a 7/16, at least with all the corrosion, it's fitting on my 7/16. So I'm just holding a socket on this side of it and then using my just hand tool to back it out. That's what worked for me. You can do it for most of them. There's a couple over here on this side that I don't know, because of the housing for the belt drive right here, if there's enough clearance, but that's another option for you too if you're having trouble with the clamp or you don't have one. All right, so that wasn't too bad. Just it's a little tough backing out. I'm guessing it's gonna be harder putting them in, but these two 7/16 socket on each side. So if you've got 2 socket sets, that would be best. So I'm gonna hook up a socket on this side. On the same time, I'm gonna hold on to a socket on that side and just spin those off. Hopefully it's not too bad. They look a little rusted, but we'll see. All right, so just for completeness, I'll show you what I'm doing. So I just have a 7/16 socket on this side. Same thing on this side, so two sets makes it easier. And then I'm just gonna hold the top one and then unscrew the bottom one. And it's coming out. So I will get that off. A little bit tough with the camera in the way, but you get the idea. It seems to be coming off. I was worried it was gonna be a little too tight. But we'll get that off and then we'll move on to the next one and then we'll start working on putting the new pedal on. Okay, so all the screws are out of this one. It's a little stuck because this thing's falling off, but basically you can see there's a back plate and a front plate, and you're just gonna kind of get that thing out of there. Comes right out, just slides right out. I was wondering if there's gonna be any inserts in these holes, but there's nothing. So pretty straightforward. Just gotta remember to have the, so you can see the nylon in the middle there. The thick part has to be facing out towards us, so that's how I'm gonna put the new one in. I'm gonna get the holes lined up and we'll start, I'll just use the new hardware as long as it fits and everything, so I'll check that and we'll start putting the new one on. All right, so why not just use the new hardware? This is the screw and nut that came out of the 2 center holes. This is what they gave me. Of course, it's metric instead of standard, so I just gotta figure out what the metric size of that is. And then these are those 2 on each side pieces, and this is what they gave me. So just double check. I think I already checked that this is a T27 too, but I'll just double check that too. And the other thing I noticed is there is inserts that came with the kit, and grab a paddle here. I think maybe I just couldn't see them in the old one because they're just so buried in there, but you set these right in the hole there, and that just gives it a little less wiggle room for the screws to go through. So that'll be what we do. We'll put the inserts in, we'll slide the paddle in that slot, and then we'll get these put in, these new ones. All right, so yeah, I just put the little spacers in this. You have to kind of hold them with both hands as you slide in so they don't fall out, and then you just line up the holes. These go through. I just hand tightened it's like a nylon locking nut. I just hand tightened them for now. We'll tighten them later. They're a 10 millimeter, so both of them are a 10 millimeter socket. Now I'm going to, with those just, a little bit, you could tighten down a little bit, I suppose. I'm gonna start working on these and make sure I have enough, ability to get those on, and then we'll go from there. All right, so all I've done then is just with my hand, just try to get this pushed in and through the hole on the backside, which is tough to see. I know the lighting's not good. Move my light over here. But you can, sorry for the camera work. You can see I'm just sort of trying to get that through there. And with my other hand, I'm gonna put that nut on and just get it hand tight, and then we'll work on getting that a little tighter just so it doesn't come out, and then I'll work on the bottom one. But it seems to be going pretty straightforward. Just one more thing that, everyone may not know is just the orientation of the nut. So it goes on this way. So you can see the screw coming out. It's gonna go on this way. You can see the top's a little skinnier than the bottom. So just wanna make sure that's clear. So on this right side, real estate is limited, like I said, because of this drive belt housing. So you can't get a socket in there. Maybe if you have a lower profile one or a smaller one, you could probably do it. I might go see if I have something. Otherwise, like I did to get the other ones off, you could just get this on there. And then I'm just going to tighten it down just by hand, you know, to get it on there pretty good. And then I can switch to a socket to really tighten it down. But this right side's a little bit problematic. I think it's gonna be the same down there just because of the lack of room. The left side seems like you can get a socket in, so just be aware of that. All right, so here's a trick that I found that works for me. This bottom one is a real problem. You have very little clearance. As you can see there, you can just barely see the screw coming through, and you need to be able to get the nut in there to get on it. So I just, with my hand, lined up the hole, and I got the screw and I fit it in. With my other hand, I grabbed a clamp. You know, you could, if you got another one of these kind of things, you could use that. Just a clamp like that to hold it. So now it's at least, it's in the hole. And now I've just got to figure out a way, maybe with my clamp, to hold the nut up there and try to spin it onto the nut. But otherwise, it just wants to pop right back off because, you know, the paddle's not used to this form. It's being curved, like you can see here. It used to being laying straight in the box. So that seems to be helping. Now the trick is to kind of try to hold that nut on there blind while spinning the screw, and hopefully you catch it and you get it in the grooves and you can get it going. So that's the next step. All right, so the clamp worked. I was able to just hold the nut with my clamp. So I just grabbed the nut and held it back there. I did have to put quite a bit of force to push this to get the nut all the way through, or at least enough so that I could find where to put the nut. And then I just slowly turned it a bit and got it started. Then I switched to the socket and just cranked it on while holding with the clamps. Same with the top, I just tightened that one down. I just put the clamp on and tightened it from the T27 side. And the new ones are T27, so no problem there. So now let's get the other side. All right, I thought I might be able to get a socket on the back end there. Again, if you have a real small one, you probably could do it. They're 10 millimeters, but I just opted for the clamp, and then I'm just holding the clamp while I'll tighten this down just to get it going. And then I'll switch to a ratchet on this side just to give me a little more leverage to torque it down a bit more. But pretty easy. You do have to work the rubber paddle a little bit. It's stiff, so you have to kind of push it, you know, into place so that the screw goes through the hole. But all in all, this hasn't been too bad. It just takes a little bit of time. Okay, so again, the lower one, again, is a problem. So what I did, like I did on the other side, is I used my hand I started this through the hole, used my hand to just guide it to the hole, and then tried to clamp it down with my hand. And then with my other hand, I came in and just put my clamp on to hold it. So I could get I don't have to put the nut on yet, but you can see, maybe you can see, it's kind of tough to, there. So there's where the screw's coming through. So now I'm gonna put the nut on my clamp. So I'm just gonna grab it on there, and I'm gonna set the nut up right against it, and then just start, you know, turning this and try to get it to catch. And then once it catches a little bit, I'll turn just a little bit more, and then take the clamp off, get the socket and get it tightened down. I left this one loose just in case there was a little wiggle I needed to get this one in. So I'm gonna tighten this lower one down first, and then I'll move back up here and tighten that. And then I still gotta tighten these two bolts. So we'll do that. And then the other side should be the exact same. So I won't go through all of the steps again, just in case there's anything that I find on the second paddle that's worth noting. All right, so I got the second paddle out. And just since I didn't show this last time, I'm gonna just quick show you here. Not sure if that'll show up or if you can see that, but the thicker side is this bottom side. So we're gonna want it to go in that way. And then these are what the inserts look like. So they just go into these two holes. So you gotta kind of hold them in because they're a little loose. You know, it's not like snug. And so you're just gonna wanna hold them with your hands, and then until you can, get it slid in there, and then you're good. And then you're just working on lining it up so the holes line up. And then I just try to get new screw, I don't know why I would ever think of using the old hardware. That stuff was rusted to hell. And then you're just putting, I just hand tighten on the nuts for time being just so it's on there. And then I'll snug them up. I don't think it really matters if you tighten these now or later, so I'll just do it now this time. And then same old thing, we're gonna struggle through putting these things on, but I think the clamp trick really seems to help. So hopefully that, if nothing else, if you get nothing else out of this video, just a way to hold it well, because these things are just so straight. They don't want to turn right now. They don't want to be bent like that. So you need something, or another set of hands would be great too. All right, well, I got the paddles on. Now I did notice that these do, I had it up and they do kind of scrape along the sides. So I don't know if that's normal or if it just wears down a little bit after a few uses or what, but if that's bad, let me know. I'm pretty sure I got the right paddles for this unit, put in the model number and all that. So not quite sure, but it's definitely not gonna miss any snow, that's for sure. But the more important thing for everybody to know, as I tipped it back up, I realized that a bunch of the oil leaked out. So I guess I thought that was an issue, but I looked at it and I didn't see anything dripping out. So be aware of that. You probably want to put something underneath it if you're going to do it. I don't see another way to do it unless you can just tilt this a bit and put it up on a table or something. But I'll have to clean that up now and put some more oil in it. I was gonna change the oil anyways, but one more thing to do before I'm done. But either way, hopefully this helped give you at least a few tips to change the paddles. I'd say allocate hour and a half, yeah, probably about an hour, just depending on your pace that you're going at. And again, having 2 socket sets really helped. The clamp, that turned out to be a must-have. And then the other clamp, this guy, or something similar, was really helpful as well if you're doing this by yourself and you only have a couple sets of hands. So I'm going to wrap this video up with a few final thoughts. It's about 2 weeks later and a heck of a lot warmer. I've used this a couple times since and it's worked great, but a couple things I didn't get to in the video that I wanted to point out. When you do the paddle replacement, you really don't want to tilt this back much. And the reason being, and the reason I had oil leak out, is there's an overflow tube, which is right here. Let's see if I can get that to focus. So this tube, when you bend it back, the oil in the cylinder will drip out of there. It's slow because it's not like water, it's thick, but it takes a while and it'll just start dripping out. That's why I had a puddle of oil. Not a big deal, especially if you have an epoxy floor and you can wipe it up easy, but not favorable, not exactly what you want. So I think the best thing to do would be to get this thing up on a lift or on the back of a tailgate or on a table, or just tilt it back just a little bit. Second thing, the reason it was real tight for this thing to move was this screw right there was rubbing. So I had tightened it down and you can see right now it's still really close. Try to get in there. I had tightened it down so tight that it was actually touching this housing where the belt is. So it was scraping along there, and this one as well. So it's really only an issue on this side. This side's fine because there's plenty more clearance. So keep an eye out for that. When you tighten those down, make sure they're not touching this housing. The third thing is the pads that I got, you can see they're already scraping. So I ran it a few times. These are touching the ground and they're touching the back of the housing. I'm wondering, since they're Amazon cheapos, if it's just a tolerance thing, but you can see these ones don't have, they've kind of carved out their own flap just because I think I've ground them down a little bit from running it a couple times along the cement. If you look at the ones that were in there, they've got like a little flap. Sorry for the sunny there. They've got this flap. So it's a real, I think that's just supposed to rub along the ground in the housing and you know, not be as, I guess, solid as this. This didn't have a flap, it's just a solid piece. So I think the length of this, the width of it, is the same as this with this little flap. So it works. I mean, it works great, but just be aware of that. If you put these on, if you buy the same ones I got, they might be just a little big, so you might be scraping the ground for a while until they wear down a bit. Those are really my thoughts. But yeah, it runs great now. It throws snow super far. You just gotta be aware that when it's scraping the ground, it's gonna pull you a little bit, and it makes a little bit of a noise. But I'm guessing that, you know, as you run it, that'll kind of wear down a little bit, and then you're in good shape for a couple years. So that's what I got. I hope this video helps you. I know it was a little bit long, but I try to make sure and cover every aspect of it so that I don't leave anything out. Any questions, comments, please leave them in the comments field, and I'll put a link for the kit that I bought with the paddles and the scraper bar and all that. Thanks for watching.